And now we're live.
Again.
The Whine No Whine Show. Take 2. This time with feeling. Technology. What the heck is going on? In the middle of going live, the show was deleted. I don't know. Doggone Russians.
Blame the Russians.
That's right. The Ruskies. Welcome to the Whine No Whine Show. Turkey edition.
Post-turkey. Please don't say the word turkey.
The day after.
Wow. Well, here we are, the day after Thanksgiving, on the Whine No Whine Show, doing what we always do. The show must go on, as we say. We're going to be talking about a subject that we're still kind of trying to feel out. We were just debating through it and talking about it before the show. We're talking about, what's the young lady's name? Any of y'all know?
Cyntoia Brown.
Cyntoia Brown.
Cyntoia Brown.
Cyntoia Brown. Cyntoia Brown.
Cyntoia Brown. Say it.
Cyntoia Brown. I had no idea.
Cyntoia Brown.
Cyntoia Brown?
Cyntoia Brown.
Cyntoia. I don't even know the
I have no idea. It was all news to me, but apparently it's a very hot thing in social media. But what we're trying to figure out is a couple things here. One, can or should a minor be tried as an adult? There's some debate there because, seriously, we can be tried as adult, but we can't buy cigarettes. We can be tried as adult, we can go to war, but we can't drink wine. Right there, I have an issue right off the bat. Right? So there's all sorts of things that we can do where the government's going to call you an adult, yet while telling you you're not an adult. So these are things that we need to debate through. So chime in with your thoughts on this, but here's another really sensitive question to consider. I had a big debate about this. I don't know if it's a big debate with folks that are tuning in, but the big debate for me is, can or should a person who makes allegations of crimes committed against them, and you see this a lot in political arenas. Right now it's happening like crazy, where people are coming out and saying, hey, X number of years ago, I was sexually abused, I was groped, I was harassed, pick your charge. And the media starts referring to that person as a victim. And the question for me is it right? Is it, sound from an argumentation kind of a standpoint to refer to people as a victim of any crime before there's been a trial? Is that fair to all parties involved? Even when these crimes can be really heinous crimes, really, really upsetting stuff. And this is kind of the situation with Cyntoia Brown, whatever her name might be. And, the stuff that she went through. So we're going to kind of talk about all that stuff, right? So you guys chime in with your thoughts on that. We're going to jump back into your comments and kind of address those as well. Today, we're going to be drinking a very tasty wine. I have already partaken in a bottle just yesterday. This wine is called Paisley Patch. Paisley Patch. Have you had this yet?
No, I have not.
This is a...
Cab. No, I haven't.
Yeah,
It's on the way, though.
Yes, that's right. That's right. It is a Cabernet Sauvignon from southeastern Australia. And very, very bold wine, big flavor, lots of berry, like a raspberry, wild berry going on, and you can definitely taste some spices in it. It's a big wine, and so it was delicious yesterday. I really enjoyed it, so I wanted to drink it again today, and that's how we roll. So I'm going to start pouring the wine. At the end of the show, we're going to rate this wine. And as always, I will post our ratings and a review of the wine, what it pairs with, what flavors are in it, that sort of thing, on our Instagram page. So be sure to find the Whine No Whine Show on Instagram, like and follow the show there, and we always share cool after the show pictures there and all that sort of thing. So this is the part of the show where I allow our guests to introduce themselves and give a shameless plug. It is part of their exorbitant pay package that I have allotted for them. So
I thought we discussed strawberry Pop-Tart also.
Strawberry Pop-Tart. I do have a strawberry Pop-Tart set aside for Scott after the show. So.
I had some green room demands.
Yeah.
He's not happy. He wants his contract renegotiated.
Right.
Yeah.
He wanted like only yellow M&Ms. I mean, like,
Pop-Tart?
yeah.
Man, I thought I was getting a cool parking space.
One of his requests. One of his requests was strawberry Pop-Tart. And I said, well, on all the others, see the substitutions below. And it was like, for the M&M's, wine, and then for this, wine, and for that wine. I'm like, but on the Pop-Tart, I got you covered. So.
Very
We're
good.
good.
Yes.
Man, you negotiated very, very well.
Right.
I'm going to have you negotiate for me next time.
You don't ask for it, you don't get it, right?
Right.
Won't get fed.
So, go ahead and introduce yourself, Scott, and give whatever shameless plug you would like to give, and then we will dive into this topic.
Sure. My name's Scott Apley. I live down in League City, so I made a little bit of a drive up here today. And I've been thinking all week what I need for a shameless plug, and I really don't have a shameless plug. So instead, what I wanted to say is that for all the people, I just made an hour-long drive up here, all the people who drive slow in the left-hand lane, I hope that they contract a painful yet curable venereal disease and suffer with some sort of foot fungus.
Yes.
So that's my shameless plug.
10,000
VD in your feet.
That's right.
That's a shameless plug up yours.
You have happy feet.
Yes.
VD feet.
Wow.
And I'm excited to be here. I've been watching now for about 6 weeks or so, and it's a really good show, diverse opinions, and I usually consider myself smarter than most, so it's a good test for my ego to come in here.
Oh, we don't blow that out of the water today.
Oh.
Well,
We leave our egos at the door.
yes.
Yep, right
Yes.
behind that door,
An
right
ego-free zone, right? Okay, so
Okay.
Jessica.
My name is Jessica Brown, and I am an interior architect. I practice here in the city of Houston, but I've taken projects on from the St. Croix Virgin Islands to New York City to Chicago, all over. So residential primarily, commercial if you like that as well, please give me a call. My company is JBIA. And I am also working with a lot of flood homes. So if you are doing your reconstruction or your building, I'm more than happy to negotiate my prices to work with you as well.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Cindy G.
Hi, everybody. I am Cindy G of the Cindy G Project. You may or may not have heard of me yet, but you definitely will. Because you're watching the show right now, and so you've heard of me, right?
Practically famous now.
It's already just a done deal.
Yes.
I help people design the life they desire to live and live in the body they love to love. I'm excited because I have a 90-day lifestyle transformation of clean living that is going to start early next month. And so if you want to be a part of that movement, it is a movement where we are cleaning up our lives, and I'm going to coach you for free. You just got to buy your supplements, that's all. I'm coaching you for free for 90 days. You need to inbox me right now so we can talk about it. I have you fill out a little survey, and then we'll get you going, okay?
There we go. Steve.
Hi. How you?
Hey.
Well, my name's Steve Williams, and my shameless plug for this week will be Danny Nguyen for United States Congress, District 22, Sugar Land, Fort Bend County, a little bit of Harris County, but yeah, we want him in Congress. So that's my shameless plug.
Steve is connected to the campaign. I won't
That's right.
say any more than that since he didn't.
Plug it.
Yes. Yes. So, and like celebrities around
Ask
here,
me.
Yes. So, let's say hello. Torian, what is going on, brother? Hey, good to see you, man. Good to see you back. Torian was on the show last
I
week.
hate I missed you. Brother.
Yeah, and David Pipkin didn't get to run into him as well. He both you guys missed him. Torian's a regular guest on the feed, so always great to have him tune in. Chris Minnemeyer. Chris is a co-host of our Artist Edition that runs Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. You'll want to tune in for that. Great show. I've just kind of embraced the idea after being bludgeoned by it like 7 weeks in a row that it's the R-rated version of this show. So try to get.
I'm on the wrong show.
Try it.
I know, right?
I
I was just about to say.
Well, we can crank this sucker up real
So
quick.
I
far,
thought there
it's
was
the
an F-bomb
R-rated.
streak
So
last
far,
week.
it's the
Oh my
F-rated.
gosh!
We got
Yes.
some new things.
I tell you what, try to get a group of musicians and artists after they've had 3 or 4 glasses of wine,
Oh, it's
not
bad.
to use a lot of language.
Right.
It just,
Hardy.
I'm giving up. It just doesn't happen. So, Anyway, great show. Chris and Harley have been doing a phenomenal job with it, so thanks for tuning in, Chris. Ashley, thanks for tuning in. Marcia, thanks for tuning in. Stephanie, Cindy, you chimed in.
Stephanie.
Cindy's on the feed.
Hey, I'm here.
Stephanie, tuning in. Scott has also chimed in. This is great. Y'all are on the show.
Scott wrote.
Scott said, I have to say, I think this might be your best looking panel ever.
Thank you, Scott.
That was like you at the door.
That's
Clickable
awesome.
moment there.
Yes,
Clickable,
yes,
clink,
you know.
clink, clink, clink.
In vino veritas, right here.
Vino Veritas.
Steve-
Oh, I'm
yes,
sorry.
Steve.
You let me hang him. Sorry. Bang, 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 bang.
Steve,
bang.
Steve said earlier he likes to break the curve. He tried here. but-
Right. Robert chimed in. He said, believe it should be consistent. Minors shouldn't be charged as an adult. Not fair to assume guilty until proven so. Alleged victim is the term I would use for fairness. Yes.
All right. Good
so-
night, everybody. I think
Yeah,
that's
so there we
Thank
go.
you for
Show's
joining.
over.
That's it.
Randall,
What's up,
what is
Randall?
going on, brother?
Hey,
Thanks for
Randall.
tuning in. Richard Smith tuning in. Stephanie, just giving you a shout out there. Cindy, that's you. Joe Gaddis, thanks for tuning in. Marcia, Cindy, you're my superstar.
Aw.
You're getting all kind of love in the
I love
feed
you
here.
more, baby.
Nicole. Hey, Jess. Nicole from Kentucky.
Hey, Nicole.
Yes. Look at this.
Girl.
Steve is chiming in. Steve, are you chiming in
Yeah.
under
you
the
here?
show?
I did it just a second ago.
You're here in here.
I'm
You're
here in
everywhere.
there.
Torian says he's ready to get healthy.
You ready, brother? Okay, let's do
Yes.
this.
Oh, Tiffany.
Hey,
Tiffany,
Tiff.
thanks for tuning in.
She said, I am too, Cindy. Girl, you know we about to do this. Okay.
Stephanie said, stop it, y'all. I know celebrities. Yeah, you got 4 of them right here on the show, right? Ashley Bradley said, I think minors should be charged as adults for crimes that affect another person's life. I'm in with Robert on the alleged victim idea. However, support should still be given to that person. Psychological support, etc. All right, and what do you mean by given to that person, Ashley? Like, is that a freebie from the state? Is that what you suggest?
You paying for it?
Are you paying for it?
A book
Yes.
deal? A movie deal? I don't know.
Oh wow! While we're watching the show here, an artist who I'm a big fan of that like not too many people have heard, but if you look him up, he's got millions and millions of hits
Wow.
from Australia.
Call me.
I messaged his page and I said, "Brilliant stuff! My wife introduced me to your work. Love it!" And he just messaged me and said, "Thank you so much, Joe. Really appreciate that." Wow!
Nice.
So that's pretty cool.
You're a clickable.
Yeah,
About
that's
3
pretty
o'clock in the
hip.
morning. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning there.
Right,
now.
right. Thank you, Vancouver Sleep Clinic. There is your shameless plug for good timing. Great music. Highly recommend it. Anyway, moving on. Mary Grove, WI is here, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Hey,
Wow.
Wisconsin.
Wow.
Midwest.
That's
What's
right.
up? Hey.
Yes. Robert Jeter said, am I scheduled for December 8th? Robert, do you want me to look at the schedule right now?
Robert, love his energy. I feel you, but I feel the same way. When I
I just know I'm going to have a talk with that boy.
Robert knows he doesn't have to chase you down. You're actually available right now.
Right
now,
He
exactly.
knows, he knows
let's
where
go
I'm
check
at.
that right
That was
now.
the best time, Robert.
Yeah,
Good
Esther
time.
Williams says she's ready to get healthy too. Look at that. So you
Really?
got getting all kind of clients right now.
Hey.
Steffi says, I'm all in, you guys. All right. So here's the deal, guys. This is what we're discussing.
Inbox me, Esther.
We're discussing whether or not a minor should be tried as an adult. And on the heels of that, even when it's easy to be sympathetic to the victim, and even when the victim is very credible, and it's highly unlikely that they would be asserting the kind of a thing that they are, is it okay? Should we still refer to them as a victim? Is it disrespectful to that person in any way? Taking away from whatever tragic situation that they're saying occurred? Is it demeaning what happened to them? And the analogy I had somebody give me, I was the crazy one on the feed that was arguing against everybody because everybody on the feed was saying absolutely this person should be referred to as a victim. It's demeaning to them. You're calling them a liar about something very sensitive. Who would lie about this kind of a thing? That kind of thing. And
Duke Lacrosse.
yeah. I was going to say that. There's actually a history of cases, but nevertheless,
To Raleigh.
Anita Hill.
even when everything you would looks right on the table, so to speak, that it's believable and that sort of thing. Should we call these people a victim? And is that fair for the media to kind of pick up that title and run with it? And we have how many politicians right now and how many celebrities right now who have had somebody come out from their past from many, many years back, some cases where it's like 20 plus years later and the person comes out. On the victim side, a lot of times
Comes out of the closet or comes out and
tells their story. Comes out and tells their story.
allegations,
Makes the
yeah.
allegation. Yes. A lot of times in the that person's defense, so to speak, there's not evidence to be had. It was something that took place, behind closed doors when it was just one other person. And when you're dealing with a situation where it's a past president or a huge celebrity, and you're the new kid on the block trying to make it, and all this sort of thing, and could it tank your career if you come out and bring these charges against this person? That person is saying, look, I don't have evidence to bring forward 20 years later, and here's my valid reasons why I didn't say anything from back then. So I am a victim, and they make those claims. In national platforms sometimes. Is that right? Is that fair? Is it unfair? Where do you land on this, guys? And right now we see it in the media a lot. And the case that we've referenced here, which has some different nuances to it. And I've already...
Cyntoia Brown.
Cyntoia Brown. Thank you for saving me. I was about to say I've already forgotten the poor girl's name. What is our take on this? And let's kind of do our, as I call bullet points. And just get a kind of an instant feedback as we go around, and we'll start responding to some of the comments that have been made along the way here. Oh, and Steve, I'll start with you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Anyway, my first question to the question would be, to what end? What is the purpose? Why is that person coming out 20 years later or 30 years later, in some cases 40 years later? To what end? What are they desiring to get out of it? That would be my question to that person. Is what do you hope to get out of this? If you want to legitimize your claim as a victim without due process, you want the court of public opinion to chime in, then to what end? That's my bullet point.
Okay, so Latoya, is it?
Cyntoia.
Cyntoia. Okay, since we're kind of referencing her, my bullet point would be, obviously it wouldn't be 40 years later. It would be just a couple of years because she's so young, and whatever she was victimized. Well, okay, let me just get to the bullet point. I would say yes, under certain circumstances, because we have to get to the bottom of it. Like, you can't just say that everybody's a victim, but yes, I believe some people truly are, depending on their circumstances. And so we have to look at what is the root cause of any action, all actions, especially when we consider them, or our perception of those actions are bad. Like, so she's bad now because she killed the guy, but why? What is truly the why? And let's get all the way down to the issue. I think that's very important.
Okay.
I think my bullet point would be kind of also getting to the grounds and to the bottom of the bone. So I do think we're far too quick to call people victims. However, I would argue that the time doesn't matter if someone comes out 20 or 40 years later. It could have taken that long for them to psychologically be able to even confront that. Mm-hmm. Or they could have even stored it back and forgotten about it because it was so traumatic. So the time for me isn't as much as an issue, but to jump the gun and give that title to somebody before everything has been investigated, I think, again, someone had said an alleged victim, I think is more appropriate, or just saying allegations. And then as far as trying children as adults, that's a tough one for me that I really go back and forth wavering, because a similar topic kind of that relates to this for me would be, it's like, what is the cause of that? And for me, I'm going to go back to parenting. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of where my bullet point is going to come in. We tend to blame a lot of things on society, But in the end, I think it comes down to what's happening in the home.
Okay.
So as far as labeling somebody as a victim, I think first thing I like to do is avoid, one-size-fits-all arguments, right? So depending on the circumstances, you'd want to look at each thing individually to make that type of decision. But generally speaking, I think that that it's not a good idea to label somebody as a victim ahead of time before there's any opportunity, because as we were discussing earlier, if you label somebody as a victim, you have to also have somebody labeled as a perpetrator, and you have people who have careers and families that they're supporting, and so I think that they have a right to a degree even in the court of public opinion to be have a level of innocence, assumption of innocence, until there can be accusations proven against them. So that'd be my bullet point.
Kind of like a picture, right?
Sorry?
And trying a child as an adult?
Yes, I think that we need to look at those laws a little bit more. I think that the way that law came about originally was that young people don't have yet the capacity to determine their decisions to be right or wrong. But I think whenever we talk about this topic, we're talking about violent offenses. And so we're talking about people who I think usually understand the choices that they're making and the ramifications of those choices. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a problem with those people being held accountable for those choices.
Let me ask you this. On this, I just kind of thought about this while we were talking about it. This is somewhat of a point of contention. I could be wrong. I'm not an attorney, and I don't represent to be an attorney. In court, you can't admit someone's prior crimes, right?
Right.
Yet, with trying a minor,
They look at their history.
Right? And typically, a minor that is being tried as an adult is being tried for a heinous, violent crime. It's murder. It's something heavy duty. It's not, like their third parking ticket. Right? It's a serious deal. But in order for a minor to be tried as an adult, wouldn't that, by assumption, then mean that I know that he had a history of violence or something prior to? In other words, if he's being tried as an adult, even though I don't get to know his history, can't I assume his history?
No. You cannot assume anything.
No. I'm saying I'm not talking about in court. I'm saying in the court of opinion. In other words, if this kid's sitting on the stand as a 17-year-old being tried as an adult, then I have to assume he had something that got him to this place from a legal standpoint to be tried as an adult anyway. So, you see what I'm saying?
Not necessarily. It could
though.
be the first crime, and he could have murdered,
Look at some
20
of the
people,
shooters
20
where people
kids.
are like,
just snipe. They could just
didn't talk to anybody. We had no
blown up
idea.
a movie theater.
Just
no priors, no anything. I think it goes back to what Jacqueline is.
Jessica.
Sorry,
Jessica.
The wine works.
Jennifer.
Like the product definitely works. Jessica said that we need to consider the environment, the home environment. I won't necessarily just say parenting, but I think that if you have someone who if there's a minor who appeared to be stable in all of his or her ways and snapped, there is something, there's not just a snapping point for no reason. Just because we may not have seen it or picked up on it because they're functional. Every day they're doing, it could be straight A students, valedictorian, salutatorian, wild scholarships rolling out of the trees for a full ride to colleges. But they snap. Again, what happened and why? So can't necessarily look at the history because the history could be a clean slate. But then what? What do you do with that?
Yeah, so, I mean, for me, there's these conundrums where I end up with kid can be tried as an adult when we have a violent crime going on. Kid can't buy cigarettes. Mm-hmm. I mean, that seems like really crazy to me, right? That you knew the ramifications of your actions enough that taking somebody else's life, you can be held accountable.
I'm going to make you groan in that.
Right, I'm going to make you groan in that. Yet, taking your own life long term via cigarettes,
right.
You're not an adult or an alcohol, whatever else.
And to that extent is kind of how I was saying, I take it back to the home
Voting,
front.
I think we should raise the age. I'm just
One
saying.
of the things that was presented to
Start
me
there.
in discussing the behavior of a teenager, when a teacher is misbehaving, and then the person I was speaking with, the argument was, yeah, but look what they're exposed to on the internet. I thought, okay, but you're the parent, so if you don't like what they're being exposed to, take it away. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, you still are the parent, so at some point...
Allegedly.
Exactly. And exactly. Who's really... Okay, so, Jessica, you got to ask, who's running the house? Real talk. Who? And what control do parents really have? Like, how much... With technology, I pose, and I'm a grandmother, so I know that my grandbabies are very strategic. And so you can block and you can have all kinds of security systems and whatnot, but then they still are, they still go to school. They're going to have access to something.
Right. So then it comes down to, as a parent, sorry for interrupting you.
Go ahead.
Then it comes down to, as a parent, we are in charge of building that core of morals and ethics and
Absolutely.
virtues.
Oh,
so I'm still going to take
absolutely.
it back to the parents.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you that. So on that point, right? If we take it back to the parents, I don't disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we have a minor, let's say that a 14-year-old, let's bring the age down a little bit, right?
Like
Say
this
that-
young lady.
Let's
this
say that a
Cyntoia Brown.
14-year-old killed somebody, right? And she ran away from home, so it's a little bit different situation, right? But let's say she
You
was
gotta
still
ask why.
right.
Why
Well,
didn't parents
But
go
so-
after her? Why
so
didn't they
hang
shoot her
on.
in?
So
For the parents.
this is where I'm going. So legally, if we're saying already from just a argumentative standpoint, arguing standpoint, that we should go back to the parents, how much should we go back to the parents? In other words, where I'm headed with that comment is, if it's a 14-year-old that takes somebody's life, how much culpability?
I'm not saying
Should
that
a parent
parents are
have?
responsible for the
I mean, like
For the actual
action.
murder. Yeah.
Right? No, but I almost I'm not trying to make that argument as much as I am like, how much culpability should there be a connected charge, not necessarily to the in other words, if you get drunk and run over somebody with your car, it's negligence, it's homicide,
Vehicular homicide.
right? Through your own negligence, right? Even if there was an accident that was justifiable, we take somebody's life, then it's involuntary manslaughter, right? So there's a legal premise for, like, if my minor ran off and did something on their own, and I'm theoretically supposed to be their guardian and everything else, maybe I don't have a charge connected. I'm not charged for murder, but I'm charged for some degree of negligence in my
Preparing them on what
But
they
I
should
believe
have
they
done.
are
Right.
doing that right now.
Right.
I believe they are doing that right now. They're doing
Really?
it right now, I believe,
I think
with
that's a good idea.
like social media bullying and things.
We're just trying to fix the world's
I've
problems here,
heard
people.
that, and I think that's
I believe they are holding parents accountable. That if
One bottle of wine
if
at
your
a
kid
time.
is
That's
caught
right.
in this and we present it to you, I believe they are starting to do that. Actually, they're
I wonder.
going
Wow!
I'd love to
Legally-
see exactly
legally,
what
they-
that looks like, and when they're done.
Does anybody
with
know
that,
anything about
with
that one?
package. What is the government is doing something? What does anybody know? What it is that they're doing to help bring the parents into more responsibility for their crazy kids?
Ashley Bradley. Ashley Bradley is a friend of my daughter's. Yet she tunes in every week and
Don't have children.
and has great comments. I mean, she really does. I don't know, how old is she? She's
25.
25. Ashley, you're only 25, and still very salient, good thoughts happening there. But she just said, okay, so I have a solution on this. Don't have children. Children are scary as is. Add murdering children to that, and I think I'm going to join a nunnery.
Look what she said before, though. She said, look at the current case in question. This was her first crime, and she didn't exist to the system until she killed someone.
Wow.
But I would argue with that, saying, okay, the case in question, she ran away at what age? I think they said like 13 or 12 or somewhere down
What
there.
was she running from?
But I'm sorry, I have a 15-year-old, I have a 12-year-old, I have a 6-year-old. At
I'm
no
sorry.
stage, all boys too.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
You go, girl.
At
Wow.
Clickable
at no
moment.
stage are
Congratulations.
any of my children going to run away
She's got 3 boys.
and me not going out to
Yeah, track them down.
I mean, at no point will they make it to 16 still being out on their streets without me finding them.
It's not like I had too many cats and I really don't miss one of them. You know what I mean? I'm like, I got 5 cats. If one of them doesn't show up tonight,
some accountability there.
I'm not really missing them.
Definitely.
I mean, I myself,
Definitely.
I grew up with a sibling who did try to run away, crossed states, and my parents were on it, and she was brought home within 2 days. I mean, like, I just don't know how a child is running away and it's allowed.
And they're staying away.
So how do
I
you
mean,
stay away?
They're running away. See, my mom, when I would threaten to run away because I couldn't do whatever I wanted to do.
My mom would pack a bag.
Yeah.
She said, go ahead. She said, no, go ahead. I'm going to find you, and I'm going to tie you to my leg. In other words, you're never getting away. There's nowhere you can go that I won't find you. So, like, she threatened me. And
so, you know, let's think about both sides of this conversation here now as presented. I had this idea for holding parents accountable for their lack of parenting, right? Now you have a situation where there's whatever going on behind closed doors that creates an environment where the kid says, for survival, I have to get out of here. Right? And now they go and they're on the streets and they get taken in and, you know, by the dregs of society, and they end up killing somebody. Right? Now, how does that connect back to the parents if I'm putting forward this idea of...
Well, the situation is similar. They ran away from their natural parenting, and they got into a situation where they eventually figured out, hey, I've got to run away from this.
Allegedly natural parenting.
Well, yes. But now they want to run away from a worse situation, and the only way that they found out was to pop a cap in them and run away, taking all sorts of stuff with them. There's like I was telling before the show, there's a survival instinct with this. Kids are not stupid when it comes to survival. They may not know exactly how to survive, but they are going to try to find a way, no matter how drastic their act is, to get away from that situation. They ran away from the first one. They committed a homicide to get away from the second one. So it's kind of a bad situation around. And the one person who is really the central of all this is the child. The parents are no longer involved. They're no longer legally culpable for their actions. So the whether they're natural parents or adoptive, whatever, they're not culpable. That's a legal condition. The child is actually responsible, and that can be determined through a lot of depositions in the legal process. So I have a lot of confidence in the legal system to do the right thing when it comes to determining cases like this. If it's a 14, 15, 16-year-old, they'll go through some problem. We've seen it in the past where they determine a mass murdering kid at 14 years old, popping schoolmates off at a schoolyard. They determine that person was an adult. Okay, they'll go through the process of, okay, how did they get the gun? How did they do this? How did they do that? All of this weighs heavily on the person actually committing the act. Okay, yes, there's a bunch of arguments that can be made as to the mental capacity, the mental maturity of that child, depending on the case, the outcome of that, of the action that they did. So there's processes that cover it all.
There are so many underpinning elements and circumstances that cause a kid to want to run away anyway.
Yeah.
Biological parents, adoptive parents, whatever the case may be. This particular young lady, you mentioned about the alcohol being in her. She was born drunk.
Fetal alcohol syndrome.
Okay, she was born drunk, and so that's an addiction. So now you've got rebellion that is going to be probably a big situation in that. Now, were the parents parenting, or were they getting a check, or were they, like, was there love? Like, so we've got to...
Well, I think Ashley just commented, she looked it up a little bit and said the adoptive parents were abusive, so she ran away from home, and the parents decided not to look for her. And I think that's the key right there. When the parents decide... I mean, if they were abusive, she's in a bad situation anyway, right?
Go.
You don't want her back in that situation. Mm-hmm. But I personally know families where the child decides to run away and the parents decide, it's just too much effort. let them go.
Well,
And then what Steve is saying, then they try these kids as adults, and I know some of the arguments my own 15-year-old uses with me that's just so irrational, his thinking, and he really, in his state of mind,
believes it.
He really thinks what he's saying is true and
Yep.
justified.
Yep.
He'll try to back it up with things that he learned in class last week. I mean, he really thinks he's got a grasp until he finishes one more semester of school and realizes, oh crap, there's a little bit more I learned. I didn't quite know it 6 months ago when I told you I knew everything, Mom, I didn't. But now I'm learning, now I do know everything this time.
Did you
So-
go?
He could have knew everything now, right? Keep living.
I said, my mom had that on her fridge forever. It was like, hurry up, move out now while you know everything. That was
I need
the,
that.
the basic gist of it was, while you still know everything about
Yep.
how to run your life, go ahead and move
Yep.
out.
Yeah.
So
So
anyway.
you've got this abusive situation that now what's happening with her is she's carrying all of this. That's weight. That thing, it manifested probably over the years. And this is a psychologist in me kicking up. And so he just, whoever the victim was, they're both victims in this situation. She was a victim, yes. She was a victim for many years. That's already, now you've got to escape your pain through probably, alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever it is you do to escape. And when you reach that boiling point, whoever is probably in front of you, they might have set you off by just smiling at you, and it was just a wrong time to smile.
So Nicole asked a question here. I'll come back real
Yes.
quick. Nicole said, "Who does this? What of government oversight becoming too strong, and who pays for this oversight to parenting?" And I think that was all in reference to me saying, about the parent being held accountable to some degree and all this sort of thing. First of all, Nicole, I don't trust government. I don't like government. I think the answer is always less government, right? So I'm with you already in your line of questioning. I will say there isn't more governmenting involved in this particular analogy that I'm making, because I kind of like this idea the more I think about it, because it's responsive. It's not predictive. So in other words, you have a 14-year-old that goes out and kills somebody, and it's at that point that the government says, okay, 14-year-olds charged for their crimes, and now we figure out how to deal with the 14-year-old, but who are the parents? And they get an automatic, negligence in parenting charge that isn't like being charged for murder. I'm not making that case. But there's a fine of some sort because, hey, look, at the end of the day, you should have been doing more parenting involved in the process. Now, the flip side of that is, the difficulty with that is I know someone personally who had a minor that they would drop off at school in front of the school every day. Watch the kid go into the school, and then as soon as they were out of sight, the kid would skip school. And got truancy fines all the time. And this person is, I cannot afford this goofball of a kid that I've got anymore, getting all these truancy fines, and I'm the one that has to pay it. Right? And sort of walking the kid to class and handcuffing him to a desk, what do I do? Right? So what
was the kid's punishment?
From the school?
No, from the parents.
How
do the parents handle the kid? Grounded them?
Yeah,
or?
Exactly. The typical stuff that you would think,
You're not getting
taking
to the root
away
of
stuff.
anything. What's wrong with the kid? Why do they not like school? You got to get to the root. Why are they against school? Are they against school, or are they against their parents? Are they rebelling against the parents because the parents want them to go to school and mandating them go to school because of the standard American dream?
Yeah.
This was a freaking nightmare to most.
And this was high school, and for this kid, he was just wanted to GED and get out of high school, and
then let that kid take that route. Everybody doesn't have to graduate high school. Everybody doesn't have to get a degree. I mean, really, I think we've talked about that. We talked about the degree thing, but I guess I would probably get shot when I leave here and say people don't need to graduate. Everybody, and I got a lot of degrees, so I'm not against school at all. I teach. I believe in I believe in education. I just don't believe in our educational system.
There's a whole other topic right there. I mean, our educational system has not changed in 400 years. So I'm a big fan of
change. No,
of change.
I
I am.
don't know. You might.
I'm a big fan of change.
Some people are like, let's keep it the way it is. Let's get back to the old.
No,
Let's go back and get some more old shit.
No, not at all.
And bring that forward.
Oh shit!
I tell you what.
Ain't working.
Take that artist edition.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm on the wrong day. I should be on the
I
you're
like
on the
what
wrong day.
Torian said.
I tell you what, the thing that really nailed down this, and we kind of got rabbit trail, but it's a fun topic for me, was Khan Academy. And this guy is an MIT grad with like 3 PhDs, off the charts intelligent, and his nephew needed help with math tutoring, but they lived like 3 hours apart. So he said, hey, I'll just, I'll make a video, I'll upload it to YouTube, you can watch it, and if you have any questions, then we can talk. They started teaching that way, and next thing you know, his nephew had invited several other kids over who were having troubles with math, and now they're like regularly watching these videos. The videos start like getting tons of views, and so the Khan guy is like, well, wow! I mean, I had no idea that there's so many people needed help. There's obviously enough people that would be worthwhile for me to drive and come down there and help you guys. I'll be happy to do it. He's not going to charge anything. Just going to tutor. I mean, like, how awesome would it be to have a freaking MIT, PhD guy coming down to tutor you for basic, algebra stuff, right? They declined. They didn't want him in-person tutoring because they all preferred watching the videos because they could go back and watch. If they understood something, they could skip ahead. They could move around in the process. And so there was a whole study about this and how students in a classroom setting, in order to raise their hand and say, I don't understand, they have to overcome peer judgment.
Who wants to look dumb?
I don't want to be the dumb kid raising my hand and saying, I don't understand,
cool.
right? And also, the teacher doesn't have the ability to skip ahead for that one kid who gets it. It's always taught to the lowest common denominator. So I'm a big fan of change. Our whole educational system needs a reworking. It's 400 years old.
No
and
kid left
we
behind
have to change it.
really should mean teach the kids where they are. Everybody innately, we are human beings. We're made.
Talk about a rabbit trail.
We're made in the likeness and the image of God, right? So we want to learn. Everybody wants to learn. That's nature.
Ashley's doing all kind of research here.
And Torian had
Torian,
amazing.
Or are they being bullied? The root is the question. Pull the root and kill the weed.
Thank you.
You're talking about the kid
that doesn't want to go to school.
Didn't want to go to school. Yes, yeah. That's totally possible.
Again, go back to parenting. Have that discussion with your child. If you can't have that discussion with your child, take your child to somebody who can help you have that discussion with your child.
I agree.
I still think it goes right back to your home.
I agree with that. No, I agree with that.
Get down to the bottom of it. Talk to your children. Figure out what's going on in their lives.
Have a relationship with your child.
Yes.
But so what's, and Joe, if you can, like, what is the relationship with that child? Because I think we're touching on some things here. Kids are being bullied and they're so afraid to tell anybody. People are getting in kids' heads, just like they got in the girl's head
Not
when she
even
ran away from
afraid.
the phone.
Some don't even think their parents care.
Exactly.
Parents are so self-obsessed with themselves
because they're struggling
and keeping up their own social images and doing their own social lives and everything else that these kids don't even think their parents have time for them.
That's right.
Or they're chasing their own dreams. Or they're getting their own relationships
trying to figure out
going.
who they're going to be.
Yeah, and so these kids are just left.
Yep.
Well,
these kids are just left.
Comment.
Now we need to really, instead of, I think that we are on to a great topic, parenting 101. Like, that needs to be a topic on the show.
Well, there's a great line. I can't even tell you the movie, but Keanu Reeves was in it. It was one of his really early ones, and he played the
great movie.
Yeah, it was. It really was because he wasn't the star. But anyway, hey, The Matrix is a great movie. All right, so I'm a big fan of that movie.
Really?
Yeah. Anyway, but there's a line in the movie where he said, he goes, when I was growing up, I have to do my best
impersonation.
Yeah, I have to do my best Keanu Reeves. When I was growing up, my old man would flick a cigarette off my head to wake me up in the morning. He goes, you got to have a license to drive. You got to have a license to go fishing. But any old person can be a parent.
I know which movie that is, and I can't think
I don't even know, but
Sounds
it's
like
a
Bill
great.
and Ted's, but-
It's so long ago, I don't even remember. It was a great movie.
I think it's Parenthood.
Parenthood or something.
Is
Yeah,
that
maybe.
what it was? I
Maybe.
think so.
He's the boyfriend. And
Yeah,
Steve
something like that.
Martin. I think.
I
it's
don't know.
Steve
I don't
Parenthood.
remember. But that line I will never forget because it really touched on something. Like, you can't choose your parents, right?
Well, actually, that's another
That's another show.
Definitely
look.
choose everything when we make the agreement to come into this life.
I will tell you,
choose our
growing
parents,
up,
our families. Call me if you want to know more about that.
growing up in a household
number.
with an alcoholic, abusive dad, who's a big guy, I will tell you that I learned to be a comedian. And that's how I dealt. Right? I never knew what dad was going to show up. Right?
See, it was Parenthood.
Parenthood from 1989.
Winner, winner, chicken
Clickable,
Yay! Ashley, our research consultant.
Online
yes,
research.
Thank you,
Yes.
Ashley, for verifying.
Yes. So yeah, and it's a great movie. That is a great movie, Parenthood.
Yep.
And it's been that long since '89, right since I've seen it.
I always thought
Yeah,
Amanda
just
was
show it.
pretty
When
good.
you were born, girl,
when you were
I would like to touch
10
on
years
something.
later.
Go ahead.
And that is, like, a lot of the conversation today has been about, like, the root and the underlying cause and all that. And definitely from a societal standpoint, I think that there's something to be said about looking at, our peers or other parents and saying, man, these guys are doing a horrible job and, this and that. But at the same time...
Can we fire them?
But at the same time, I think we need to be really hesitant to continually look for the root to be the cause of people's decisions, right? Because we can find 100 different roots as to why people end up making bad decisions when ultimately at some point you have to let the responsibility of decisions that people make rest it with themselves.
And where do those decisions come from that they're making?
Right? So, but...
Like what
Well,
causes
and
a person to make a decision? It's based on... It's not. I'm not saying it's based on what happened to them in the womb, but it is definitely based on their frame of reference. It's
Why do
based
they
on
feel
their
they
process.
can't go back home?
Yeah.
Why do they feel there's not an
Well,
opportunity to have that conversation?
I'll
Why
give
do
you an
they-
example, right? At least, correct me if I'm wrong where you're coming with this, right? From my own life, right? A lot of people on the outside of my world had no clue what home life looked like for me, right? But how I dealt with it in life was the Thomas Edison thing. I know 999 ways not to make a light bulb, right? Before, actually, I think it was 9,999. I think he literally, I think he,
like in the thousands.
yeah, I think he
Yes.
failed 9,999
Yep.
times or whatever before he hit that 10,000th time in getting it right. So just for whatever reason, my mental DNA, my mental wiring allowed me to say, I'm not going to be that kind of dad or that kind of husband. I have no idea what a good husband looks like. I have
Right.
no idea what a good parent looks like, but I'm not going to be that.
Yeah.
I at least have one good example of what not to do.
Absolutely.
And that
Amen.
was my
Amen.
approach to
Nicole said
life.
that's growth mindset.
So yeah, but for whatever reason, Nicole, that's the way I'm wired, right? But I think to Scott's point in saying this girl, same person, grew up with a difficult scenario. At what point do we say I have to stop going back to the root
Making excuses.
and making excuses?
That's basically, yeah.
You know,
I understand. I feel
And if
you.
we're always looking for a root, we're always providing an excuse where, and that doesn't mean that there's not legitimately things. Like there's
Right.
people who've had horrible instances
Right.
and they're left with very little options.
Yep.
And those little options lead them to paths where the choices are limited and outcomes are bad. But at the same time, I mean, it's
Decisions.
just...
Well,
I mean, I
to-
think
to
it's
your-
inarguable.
Decisions have to be
your,
made.
To your point, there's an excellent book out there called Our Mothers, Ourselves, and it's co-authored, and one is a psychologist, and the introduction to the book says, we're going to go through...
Christian Northrup is one of the authors.
Yes, I think it's Northrop. In the introduction, they start off saying, listen, we're going to give you all these different types of mothers. You're going to find either one that was, this is my mother, or maybe your mother was a little bit of everything. Whatever it was, this is going to help explain how you became who you are. Yet, as to your credibility, to what you're saying, they say in their introduction, yet, although we're going to identify this, you're reading this now as an adult, and these are not to be used as your crutches.
Right.
These are to be used to explain, to identify, but you now have the choice and the decision to do differently.
Absolutely.
You cannot use this as your excuse the rest of your life. So you can't be a grown person saying, well, I was molested when I was 3.
I
And that's what
really,
you send it
the
at
rest
50.
of your life.
I
You're 50
really
years
have
old.
to.
You're 50 years old and you're still
using it. So now
I
we
really
gotta
have
go
to
back
talk
to,
about that.
Okay,
I
we got to
have
go
to
back
talk
to what Scott said real quick,
Go ahead.
because he mentioned your paths, right? You can't continue to go on, and your paths lead you to different things and da da da. But what if your when and how does the path lead you to a book that opens you up to
That changes your path.
that changes your path? Like, how do you get on the path? Maybe that young girl's way to get to this information, well, I got to kill my way out because I'm trying to get to my next level, and right here all I'm getting is raped. All I'm getting is drugs.
She did not commit the act of homicide, kill that guy, because she wanted to learn something.
We don't
from
know.
it.
How do you
she
know
wanted
that?
to
Did you
get
have
away
that
from it.
conversation?
What?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying that she didn't kill that guy because she wanted to learn from that. She killed that guy because she wanted to get out of that situation.
Yes.
There
Yes.
are extenuating
It was flight.
circumstances
Absolutely.
that could be legally
It's fight,
defended in
flight,
that
Fight or
case.
flight.
So,
She
Fight, flight, or
And
freeze.
that
as she
adrenaline.
is.
I mean,
she at that point,
a jury
all
can
she
be
knew.
a jury can be very empathetic to that.
Yes.
They say, "Oh my gosh, she was a poor little
When they
girl
paint
being
that
raped
picture,
on us."
all
I
the
totally
everyday
not
rape-
guilty. Boom, next case.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's
And
that
then,
easy
but
for
then,
people.
but then, what do you do with her? Because if she's put in the same situation, if they, okay, you're free, go, bye. Then what does she do? You have to then put her on a path and expose her to
Yes.
the truth of where how to open yourself up to receive and to forgive yourself. It's not your
Right.
fault. Listen, you are perfect. You are amazing.
That comes
and
from
let's,
counseling.
yes,
Comes
real
from,
counseling, not that
a peer counseling. Sometimes there may be
Real
girls and
Someone else in a
boys
similar
her
situation.
age that can be very empathetic to her
Group
situation.
settings. And,
Group settings. There, it's not this touchy-feely stuff. There is a lot of hard conversations that go on in this, and you know what?
Talk to
They're
her where
they're
she's
the
at.
only ones. Some of us can't even sit in the same room with
Don't
those
send me a
kids.
lot,
That's right.
please.
That's right.
So,
All right,
let
so
Hashtag
them
me
work
too.
it out.
two points to this. To your point, or I said I had to talk about this. To this day, and even recently, within the last month, this show exists because of my jacked up childhood. Here's an irony, right?
Am I gonna cry?
No, yeah, I don't know. It is kind of
I'm trying to
touchy
cry
feely.
today.
Yeah,
I
it is.
got
Are
It
we
is kind of.
recording this?
Yeah, it is in the sense that at the end of the day, my parents fought all the time like cats and dogs. I mean, it was crazy, and the abuse thing and alcohol and all. It was crazy. It was crazy, and so this show is kind of centered around the idea of conflict resolution, right? It's
An
trying
expression
to
of that.
it's trying to take two parties who disagree and teach them how to speak to each other.
Right.
At the end of the day, I'm just trying to fix my childhood. Right?
At the end of the clinkable.
Right. So now this is to your point,
I'm serious. No.
and that was just an aha moment within the last month,
He needs
right?
more wine.
As a 50-year-old dude, I'm like,
you.
I'm
You can't tell me.
49.
Good looking out. Good looking out over there.
I'm
That's
still
cool,
trying to
right?
figure this
Bad
stuff
luck.
out in life, right? And so this is to your point, right? In that it's to be understood, to learn from, not as an excuse,
Correct.
right? Because I can justify all kind of stupid behaviors in my
Yes,
life
yes.
by saying, well, I was
it's my parents'
abused,
fault.
I was, take
You don't
your,
know what I've been through.
Right, exactly. I can be a victim all day long, and I can play that card as well as anybody because I've had that life. I'm adopted, and I go all through this stuff, right?
Crutches.
Crutches, exactly. So it's definitely you have to dial that in. Now, I will ask this question. I'm all about personal responsibility, right? And multiple people, James said it here, personal responsibility needs to be taught more. James Taylor, great comment. Thank you. Ashley chimed
James
in.
Taylor?
Yeah, the James Taylor. He tunes in and watches all the time. So I don't know. Maybe you can post a song for us, James. It would be awesome. And as my
James Taylor?
17-year-old daughter is like, what are they talking? James Taylor's a famous musician, baby.
Yes,
Uh,
he does.
Quite good, actually. Anyway,
Amazingly good.
Ashley Bradley said something can be a reason but not an excuse, and I think people get wrapped up in, well, their home life was crap growing up. That doesn't excuse them from their actions. It can be a consideration in how to approach the resolution for the situation, but it's not an excuse. Exactly. That's
Ashley
a very...
is on fire.
I know, right? She has these great comments every time she
When is she
tunes
gonna be
in.
on the show?
So, I think she's out of state, and she's like in Iowa or Illinois. She's in Illinois. Okay.
Midwest girl, hey
Yeah.
girl, Midwestern girl.
Yeah, James Taylor,
Michigan.
Fire and Rain. Yes. There you go. Post that one. So anyway, having said that, right, I'm all about personal responsibility. But let me ask the question now with this Cyntoia Brown, right? Ashley had posted that she was bounced from foster home to foster home. What was the comment?
And then finally adopted.
So she went bouncing around through foster homes, but eventually was adopted. However, their adopted parents don't receive government checks. They do get discounts and exceptions on taxes for a few years, but because these are typically small and one-time thing, then I doubt Cyntoia still was qualifying for those things. It's so hard finding any information when 3 websites are pinning her as a drug addict. Nobody.
Of course she is. Are you kidding?
Nobody and 6 websites are sugarcoating everything. Just tell me the facts, everybody. Good gosh. Yeah, no doubt, for sure. So my question is, this girl runs away from home. Whatever she did there, she's foster homes in and out. She ends up with the sex trafficking guy who sells her off to this guy she ends up murdering. Where did we fail from a system, from our society, in picking that up? Right?
What do you mean in picking that up?
If she's bounced from foster home to foster home, it eventually ends up running away.
It's the system. It's a construct.
Where do we fail in my scenario? You know, my dad was a goofball. My mom was codependent, but she tried as hard as she could.
Was your dad a provider?
And yes, and he
That trumps
he worked
everything
exactly. He
in the
worked
Stone
and exactly, and you know, so on the outside.
Industrial age.
On the outside, no one would know, right? I mean, he drank, and which wasn't uncommon amongst anybody in his circle, right?
Exactly.
So nobody on the outside,
They drank the Coke.
right? Nobody on the outside
Like we
would
do
know.
right now.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Okay.
Clickable. Clickable. We're going to need more wine. Hashtag
Wine's
Gabrielle
good for you.
Union. No, go
Wine's good for you.
It is. That's very true.
There's a great video with that, with like people that are getting drunk drinking wine. They're like the phenols in the wine. That's great for you. So good for you. And it was hilarious. Anyway, I digress.
Our lives are pretty similar.
So I'm like, you know, in my life, nobody would know, and there would have been no way for anybody to pick it up. But in this girl's situation, leading up to, she's in and out of foster homes, all this kind of stuff. Is there anything that can be done? I mean, like, I hate Big Brother. I don't like the, you know, I know best for you because I'm in government, right?
Well, in this case, Big Brother's not working. That's the thing. Her case is not the only one.
No,
there are
there's
tens
of
of thousands in this country that are exactly the same, to varying little tweaking degrees of difference. But you know, we're not going to get ahead. We're never going to get ahead of this. What?
Torian said, I'm sorry. Torian said, it's the system, but we are the system.
Mm.
I ask some hard questions to my children's friends' parents all the time.
I do too,
Torian. I just
What
got
are
a
you
chill.
asking? Torian, what are you asking
What
them?
question?
Yes,
brother?
I want to know what
questions?
you're asking them. That's
What did
a
Ashley
good
say?
point.
Oh,
Chime
thank y'all
in.
so much
I
for
wanna
the-
Why you
Don't-
let that little terrorist run your life?
I do too.
Bye, Ashley.
Well, that might be one of them.
I know
ask
we're not
my
voting yet, but
friends'
I need a
parents
fan.
questions all the time. Also,
I'm at
when
that
they
age.
say something, if they tell me
Hot
something
flashes?
that's going on with their child,
Warm flashes.
one of the first
They're not
questions
hot
I
yet.
ask is, "Did you talk
When
to
they're
him?"
hot, I'll be running out of
No,
here
I don't
to the
have a
freezer.
question.
Hang on, guys. Hang on. We're over talking a good point over here.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
I was just saying, I ask my children's friends' parents questions all the time also, because one of the things that their parents will come to me, you know, when we get together at sporting events or anything else, like, oh my gosh, did so-and-so, you know, did your son tell you about this? And did your son, and they'll sit there like, how does your son tell you all these things? My son doesn't tell me anything. And I sit there like, well, did you ask him? Did you inquire? Did you?
And if you did, how did you ask?
And well, no, when he gets in the
Learn
truck, he
from
says he just
people
doesn't
doing
want
it
to
right.
talk. Well, don't let him not talk. Talk to him. It's your kid. Like, there's an area where these children are being allowed to just be like, no,
Quiet.
I don't want anything to do with you. I got it. And they don't have it. They're not mentally ready. They're not psychologically ready, and they need that guidance. And I think parents have so much taken this back seat of like, okay, I don't want to upset you. Like, no, sit down. We're going to talk. Well, I want to go. My friends are waiting for me online. I don't care. Sit down. We're going to talk. Like, I want to know what's going on. Tell me about your day.
I love it.
Let's hear what's happening. And I think that's lacking there. I had one parent who didn't even know that our children were issued their jerseys, their practice jerseys for football had been 2 weeks. And I said, well, aren't you washing his jersey? She said, oh, well, he hasn't brought anything home. I said, they've been at practice for 2 weeks. What do you think he's wearing? I guess I should ask him. Talk to your kids. Like, it's not
Your kid is the stinkiest one on the team right now. You need to wash the jersey, Mom. Okay.
You know, we're talking about the system, right? And Torian is right that we're the system. So we have elements of the system. First of all, we have I know that Joe and I agree, and probably Steve as well, that government making decisions is a bad idea.
Obviously,
right?
you're the one that has it all wrong here. So, you too.
I don't know them well enough. They may
I think Torian just answered the question. He says, and when they start talking, be prepared to listen. You got to be able to put your stuff aside, stop what you're doing, and demonstrate the fact that you're going to listen to your kid no matter what it's about.
Yeah.
If it's silly, if it's important to that kid.
That's right.
And they need to know that you empathize with whatever it is that they're telling
They need to
you.
know you're in on their team, baby.
I'm not a parent. I've never had a child. And so I'm wondering, this is the way it would come to me. I mean, they're gonna know that it doesn't matter what it is, boy, girl, whatever. They're gonna be able to talk to me, and they're gonna understand that from an early on age. You know, so it's just I don't see another way to play it. My life, the things that I'm doing in my life, pale in comparison to what my kids are going through, what my kids would be going through. So that's it.
So we've got some good comments I want to address here real quick. Marion Gross said, "We don't need Big Brother. We need neighborhood potlucks.
Yeah.
Get off our phones, look up to see our neighbors, etc." And Torian made a comment prior to that.
That might be the best thing to come out of Wisconsin ever.
Right?
That comment.
I'm from Wisconsin. Hang on now.
Torian said, what we used to call caring people now call being nosy. We need social workers back in the school.
Back in the school.
We need strong PTA members.
But listen, here's the problem with that.
What?
Torian, and I'm coming from a social worker. I am a social worker because I teach college English, so that's my community service. We don't make money. So if we the social work people who are in education or in social work, they didn't understand going into college to get those degrees in social work that it was you were going to have to need 3 other side jobs. So they're stressed trying to make ends meet. They got more month than money every single month, and got the issue where they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. So they still have to clock in. That's one of the issues. I strongly believe that the educators and the social workers and the people that are really getting to the root of the stuff, the great parents that can be parents, unfortunately, you know, the children are asking the parents a question, and the parents didn't study, so they don't have an answer. That's one of the issues. To the person that said, you know, don't have kids, your friend. Like, don't have kids. If you don't have answers for your kids, like, don't have them. Just, really. It's hard.
I mean, you know, at the end of the day, parenting is hard.
And I'm not even, like I said, I'm not even a parent. I got an answer for that. You know, son, I really don't know the answer to that, but you know what? Here's what we're going to do.
Figure it out.
We're going to figure it out together.
Or I know somebody who will.
No, not even that. The one thing that's going to put social workers out of business is parents who can help their kids find the answers and do it together as a team.
I love that. That's the movement.
You're passing on that parenting trait.
That's right.
To the kids that are going to take it the rest of their lives.
And what is it? Everybody say it with me. Well, why? Because I was a kid that asked why. Why can't I? Because I said so.
My kids learned early on.
That's not a freaking answer. That's not going to fly with me.
I get that a lot from my dad right now.
Because I said so. Because
it's a reversal world. I'm going, oh,
why? When a kid asks you why, when your kids ask you why, what do you say?
Why not?
Why not?
Yes.
Why not?
Like
and then what I do is I go.
See, my mom, they didn't know that. They just said because I said so, and I was like,
no. My
answer, I'm running away.
My question is why?
That was my early on.
The second thing
I said that.
No, first I say why not, and then I go back to what did we discuss, and make him be accountable. Make him recollect the discussion. Make him recollect the rules. Make him own it. Because for me to be like, I told you, you need to, he's not hearing that.
He's already
If I
tuned
say,
you out.
What did we discuss?
I tuned her
He
out
has
when
to
she
pull it
started
in.
that.
Because they are they're
pull
way
it in.
more intellectual than we give them credit for. And you have to have, we have to have some kind of adult conversations with our 12 and 13, 14-year-olds. Like,
But
not
do you-
adults,
Yes.
but like real
Yeah,
talk.
they're pretty
Now,
adult.
I saw someone tune in, and I actually sent her a message so she could jump on the show. Sawa here, who was quite passionate about minors being charged as adults. So, Sawa, if you get the opportunity, go ahead and give us your take on whether minors should be charged as adults or not. Would love to see that in the feed. And real quick here, on kind of the thoughts that have been flowing. Randall made a comment earlier. He said, some of the people who have done some of the greatest things have come from effed up families. Yeah, and he kind of gives us, here's a few of the people who had horrible parents: J.P. Morgan, Cyrus McCormick, John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, George Washington, Thomas Edison. It goes down the list of just starts.
Westinghouse, not Washington.
What? George Westinghouse. Yes.
It's all good.
Washington
We're
couldn't
good.
tell his parents he couldn't tell
We get
a
the
lie.
point.
Right.
A lot of them.
A lot of people who did some big things.
Name
in
somebody
life,
I know.
right?
Randall.
And as a foster parent, my experience with SW, social workers, was abysmal at best. Work to keep the kids in the system. Job security. Mary Gross comment. Great comment.
Yes.
Hey, Carol.
Randall said, "What have I learned? That the humans that learn to deal with adversity early on in life do great things later because they build up the one trait you can't learn, only experience teaches, and that's grit." Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, adversity is the crucible, and it will either break you or make you. That's reality. The sad thing is that I think it probably breaks more than it makes. And when it comes to parenting, if I had to do away with every great person who was driven, who created Apple or whatever company in the world, to get rid of all of the broken people in society, I would do it in a heartbeat, because I think there's far more broken people than there are great people. And so if I could give everybody a grounded home, where their home environment wasn't the place of adversity, and let them find that somewhere else. I mean, the Marines or something, right? I would do that in a heartbeat.
Well, James Taylor just made a really great comment about that. 90% of the Marine Corps that he says came from broken homes. I said, well, I can empathize with that, because I do believe that military does form family-type bonds. You have brothers and sisters that serve alongside you, and that creates a heck of a base to lean on later on in life.
On the flip side, though, as do gangs.
That too, yes.
Gangs provide that family, that welcoming, you belong here.
Well, where the Marines are serving the country and defending
of course,
it,
I'm not
the
saying
gangs are trying
good,
to destroy it.
But I'm
They're
saying
both
it's
doing the
still-
same
they're both
thing.
doing the same
I'm sorry,
thing. That
gang?
lost individual.
Right.
is
They're both
looking-
providing the same thing.
Family structure.
Yeah. So, the comment was from James. He said he was in the Marines, and 90% of them came from broken homes, right?
Okay.
So they joined the Marines because they're looking for that sense of belonging, that family. So where some join the Marines, some join a gang.
Gangs.
Oh, a gang. Okay.
A
Gotcha,
street
gotcha,
gang,
gotcha,
sorry,
gotcha,
right?
gotcha.
Maybe I was
The Marines is a
passing
much
it.
more legal version of a
I've been
gang.
drinking. Okay, gotcha.
She's been drinking.
I've been
Right.
It's the alcohol.
Sawa said adamantly here with an exclamation point, they should not be charged as adults. If you can't
back
vote,
to the point, right?
yeah, right. If you can't vote, you shouldn't have to be punished. You shouldn't have to be punished as an adult.
Oh,
Yep.
and we're over.
Yep,
We
and
did turn out.
yeah, it always
some
happens.
pretty
It
good
always
progress on
flies
this.
by. It always flies by.
Yeah.
Oh, Nicole. Yeah.
Or they choose the military over jail time. Great comment. Hopping in. So I mean, for me, like I said, kind of wrapping up
Hey,
that
Toya.
we're raising too many wimps. I don't disagree.
We are. Okay. We need to talk. Okay, you know
what?
But I think that's already happened. I think it's wimps raising wimps. Let's be real.
Wimps are yes.
I think
we're not
raising
wimps.
Raising wimps.
Wimps are raising
we're gonna have
wimps.
some serious problems here in about 10, 15 years.
So
I
let
just
me
know
tell
it.
you something.
This
We
sounds
need
like
to
a show
have a
topic.
show.
Yeah, I was just
where
going to say,
we're
this is
talking
actually a show topic that I
So
wish I would have thought
about-
of.
Oh my God. Randall wishes he were
Kids
here, was
raising
here to
kids.
argue his
Wimps raising
point.
wimps.
We'll wrap up on
Yeah.
this point, but I
Oh,
absolutely...
man, that parenting thing, man, we got to get on that.
Listen, I absolutely...
That's a
This is
series.
going to be a topic for the next week's... next week's survey. And that is, right, we had a show where we said, is being a millennial's fault, right? And I posed it that way on purpose. It was very...
Come back to that one.
You know, it was very judgmental in its title on purpose. But at the end of the day, who's the freaking millennials' parents? That's where we have to look. I mean, all the things that we complain about millennials. Well,
Generation X.
who the heck raised them? I mean, it's not like they figured it out on their own and they
Generation
just got
X
this place. So Randall said,
parents.
Who raised
But-
Generation
but now we
X?
got technology that
Not
you can
even necessarily
GPS
raise them.
track
Who
your
still
kid.
has them living in their house? I mean, who's
Yep.
allowing it?
so hang on. So millennials created, right? Because myself, right, at 10 years old, I had a motorcycle. I rode all over the countryside. I would disappear for like that's the way you roll, right?
Randall, I'm so with you on that, brother.
So now I'm a parent. I have a 14-year-old. Right? My son at...
Wait, you tell your kid you're not playing in the yard?
Yeah, first of all, we live on... I mean,
You
still.
gotta go find a yard.
But still. So, and I mean, like, and before that, I had a
Okay,
go-kart,
Jamie.
and I'm like riding up and down the streets on the
Okay,
go-kart, you know.
okay.
And
So,
Mary, who didn't ring?
the entire opposite direction, right? Right? Like every day I'm at school sitting there, I get my milk. That had 24/7 TV. I mean, I remember when TV.
But
It was the
better,
network's
kid.
way of
10
saying,
p.m.
go.
First of all, the millennials are the millennials
Take that.
because and then the second you know, here's your garden hose.
With
Well, you
my
don't need a
dad,
helmet.
I rode
Right.
on in the front
Always
seat
has a
on the
suitcase.
Yeah.
armrest. Is coming on the show, and we're going to talk about parents.
Yeah, Latoya's a great gal. I love her.
She's in the
Come for the
wine
parenting.
club.
That's right.
Thank you for sharing your wine with me, Steve.
You're very welcome.
And so we are in a wine club. Yep. And we get Ow, this is a wine.
I'm sound like
Right,
yeah.
if I tried, I'll sound like a South
They're all
Side
blending
honey.
together
dude.
now.
my wife,
No.
very intentionally,
Hey, Sheila.
to the chagrin of my
That's what
kids,
you are.
does an absolutely
Sheila.
horrible
Sheila?
Australian accent
Sheila.
on purpose.
I'm a Sheila.
So
Yeah,
she's
girl.
like, "Hello, governor. Throw some shrimp on the
Sheila.
Barbie." And that's her
Barbie, yeah.
that's her horrible accent. Anyway, southeastern Australia, Cabernet Sauvignon, Paisley Patch is the name of this wine. It is definitely a bold wine, has a dry finish. I will be posting about it on the Instagram page of the Wine to Wine Show. So make sure to follow us over there as we will have the score and a description of the wine and all that sort of thing on our Instagram page. That's the only place you'll find it, and a picture of the bottle over there as well. So we're going to start. I'm going back to you, Scott. On a 1 to 5 grape scale system, how do you rate the wine? 5 being best, 1 being terrible. Share with
All
the
right.
group.
So I figured that the best way to get on the show was not to tell anybody that I don't like wine. So
That would have been a hindrance on getting onto the
I'm
show.
not a wine drinker.
Yeah, that's gonna be a
Usually, for
problem.
some reason, it burns my stomach. It tastes great, burns my stomach. I don't know why.
Okay.
This wine didn't do that. So this wine tasted really good. I couldn't tell you about tannins and body and how much it needs to breathe or anything like that.
Yes.
But it tasted good. It didn't upset my stomach. So in my book, that's a 5 wine.
All
So,
right.
Yes.
now
You would
Wow.
buy it and take it home and drink it with Melissa.
Yes.
Yeah.
allegedly.
Allegedly.
Oh, you would keep it a secret. Okay. Hey, Melissa.
He would be a victim of
Yes.
not wanting to tell.
Yes.
Yeah. Well.
Okay. Straight out 4. I think it goes in smooth, but it has a little bit of a bite at the end. So it starts enjoyable, and right at the end, like he said, it is a little bit dry, and it has a little bite at the end, and I don't enjoy those type of bites because I like it smooth all the way down. So for me, I say 4.
I like that assessment. I agree with that assessment. I will tell you, it's got the flavor of it to me is really great. The flavor for me is a 5. It's got a nice kind of a berry flavor going on that's not overly assertive, but it does finish dry. It's definitely got a dry finish. I will tell you, I would probably love this wine with a big juicy steak.
Yep.
Yes.
It's a great kind of a
Juicy
palate.
burger.
Yeah, or a juicy burger.
Your
Yeah,
gourmet
exactly.
I'm going to pretend I know
From
what that means.
SW Cookies down in Kima. Yeah, or Seabrook. Yeah.
It's for me. It's a really great palate cleansing kind of a wine. I could absolutely, I'm craving it right now. A big fat ribeye, big
Guess
hunk
you
of
know where
that.
you're going for dinner.
So yes, so
right after Thanksgiving.
yeah, right.
And you're not full still from last night?
No, that's
So-
just that he had too much turkey, so he wants red meat.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
He's ready for some red.
I'm not a turkey guy. But I will tell you, my daughter cooked the turkey, and it was phenomenal. Everybody was raving about
Ashley.
it. She's a little cook, I tell you what. I keep trying to encourage her to go the chef route. So mainly because I don't like to cook, and
Oh,
Nice to
you
have
know.
one in the
And she's
family.
a
Right,
good
right,
director because
right.
she's trying to keep you on
on
She's
task.
trying to run the
Yes.
show.
What's the wine rating? So, having said that, I will give this a 4.25 grapes. There we go.
4.25. All right, so
Yes.
so let me tell you my story.
It all began with the
I
dinosaurs.
am the opposite of these two. I absolutely hated this wine in the beginning, and I thought that I was going to have to give it like a 2. But after it did breathe, Scott, this is a total 5. And
It
I don't know if
breathes
it's because
nicely,
of my
it does.
green smoothies that I drink every day. My palate loved it at the end, not at the beginning. It hit me the wrong way. It was not. But you see, I've drank Steve's glass
Yeah, I
too.
mean,
I
yeah.
drank mine and his. So 5, baby. This is a good one. I love this wine. I cannot wait for my shipment. It is on the way. It should be at my doorstep when I get home.
There we go. There we go. It does. I will definitely tell you, if you pick up this wine,
Let it breathe.
Paisley
Let it
Patch,
breathe.
I opened it about an hour before the show, but I did not decant it. It would if I had it in a decanter, it probably would have been perfect going
Oh, I
in
love
straight
it.
into the show.
love
But
it.
as such, it needed
That
some
is
more
one of
time to
mine.
breathe.
That is one because it's the. I'm sorry, Steve. It's your turn.
It does need to relax. It is.
It needs to relax, but it has a. It's so smooth to me, and it's a thick smooth, and I'm a Pinot Noir.
It's a
girl.
big. It's a big
It's
wine.
a big
It's
wine.
a big
I don't
wine,
drink
absolutely.
cabs anymore. I used to, and I would find myself getting into fights and stuff. Like
There were knives
stomach
involved.
burning, fighting.
Everybody was hungry.
Sometimes.
There was knives involved and hair pulling. It was ugly.
Yeah,
So
I was
yeah.
shooting people. I was like your girl Cyntoia. Anyway.
Why did I just picture Della Reese on Harlem Nights beating up Eddie Murphy?
There you go. Yeah.
Rest her soul.
That would be
Rest her
me.
soul.
But yeah, rest in peace.
I was going Medea, but
Yeah.
you know.
Medea.
I love Medea.
It's a man.
How you doing?
Well, as far as being tough.
Oh, okay.
Right.
But yeah, that's a good one.
Because the what was it? Medea goes to jail at the opening of the show.
Oh, Lord.
He's like the police helicopters and stuff. Anyway, I
You're a
digress.
producer.
As my daughter is pointing to the screen,
You're a
going,
producer.
"Good Lord, man, finish the show." Steve.
I just don't know
And
what to
we're only
say.
at 6:22.
Okay, I don't know what else to say other than.
Did you taste it at all?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Okay.
it was good. It was good. I liked it. Everything you said was dead on the money. I was not affected by that little bite at the end because I thought, I can counter that with a bite of steak, like you said.
Okay, so you agree
Okay.
with them?
So with you kind of encapsulated or bookended the need for it to breathe a little bit more, get a little bit more air into it. It would have just been great. So where the heck was the decanter?
I broke it.
Oh, well, okay, well, all right.
We
Well,
And it's like 3
but yes,
glasses.
know
But
good
it's-
Christmas.
Yes.
I'm going to give this one
I was quite heartbroken.
another decimal point. I'm going to go 4.5 on mine.
That is
So,
a good rating.
It is. That's actually a very
I'm
solid
often
one.
not impressed by it, but this would be one that I would buy and take home and have a steak with it.
Nice.
So there you go.
Yay.
Medium.
That is a very
Little
strong
onion,
wine. That's a very strong
you know.
wine. I have to say, it is. I mean, definitely let it breathe because it gets bitter as it mellows. So
It gets
4.5
bitter or better?
Better,
And much better.
better. Yeah, it gets better as it breathes.
So did you
So
figure
crank up the music. We're gonna take it out.
We're gonna bug you out.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thanksgiving edition of the Wine No Wine Show. We're just trying to fix America one civil conversation at a time.
One time.
And you know what? I forgot to say it. Mary Grow made the comment that we need more like potlucks and people getting together, right?
Let's do that.
Mary, what we need is more Wine No Wine Show.
Yes.
In homes.
Hot topic.
In homes.
Oh, yeah.
Around
Oh, it
America.
works.
Around
It works.
America.
Duplicate.
Families getting together and talking about everything that everybody says we're not supposed to talk about. Religion, politics, everything. Bust out those conversations over a great glass of wine and talk about the tough stuff. Because that's how we create community. That's how we build bonds. That's how we fix the problem that America's facing.
We're the end.
Right? So, thank you for tuning in to the Wine No Wine Show. We'll be back next Friday at 5 o'clock and Thursday at 7 p.m. with the Artist Edition. Tune in. If you want to be on the show, hit me up. We're booking now until like February. So, thanks for being here. We'll see you next week. We're